And so you would have fleshed your maiden swords for me? For me? Faith, they would have been at it again if she'd egged 'em on. But their swords, oh, prettily they said it, had been drawn for her once or twice already. "And where?" says she. "On your hobby horses before you were breeched?" "On my own ship," says the elder. "My cousin was vice admiral of our venture in his pinnace. We would not have you think of us as brawling children." "No, no," says the younger, and flames like a very Tudor rose. "At least the Spaniards know us better." "Admiral boy, vice admiral babe," says Gloriana, "I cry your pardon. The heat of these present times ripens childhood to age more quickly than I can follow. But we are at peace with Spain. Where did you break your queen's peace?" "On the sea called the Spanish Main, though 'tis no more Spanish than my doublet," says the elder. Guess how that warmed Gloriana's already melting heart. She would never suffer any sea to be called Spanish in her private hearing. "And why was I not told? What booty got you, and where have you hid it? Disclose," says she. "You stand in some danger of the gallows for pirates." "The axe, most gracious lady," says the elder, "for we are gentle born." He spoke truth, but no woman can brook contradiction. "Hoity toity," says she. And, but that she remembered that she was a queen, she'd have cuffed the pair of 'em. "It shall be gallows hurdle and dung cart if I choose." Had our queen known of our going beforehand, Philip might have held her to blame for some small things we did on the seas. The younger lisps. "As for treasure," says the elder, "we brought back but our bare lives. We were wrecked on the Gascons' Graveyard, where our sole company for 3 months was the bleached bones of de Avila's men." Gloriana's mind jumped back to Philip's last letter. "De Avila that destroyed the Huguenots? What do you know of him?" she says. The music called from the house here, and they three turned back between the yews. "Simply that de Avila broke in upon a plantation of Frenchmen on that coast, and very Spaniardly hung 'em all for heretics, 800 or so. The next year Dominique de Gorges, a Gascon, broke in upon de Avila's men, and very justly hung 'em all for murderers, 500 or so. No Christians inhabit there now," says the elder lad, "though 'tis a goodly land north of Florida." "How far is it from England?" asks prudent Gloriana. "With a fair wind, 6 weeks. They say that Philip will plant it again soon." This was the younger, and he looked at her out of the corner of his innocent eye. Chris Hatton, fuming, meets and leads her into Brickwall Hall, where she dances thus. A woman can think while she dances, can think. I'll show you. Watch. She took off her cloak slowly, and stood forth in dove-coloured satin, worked over with pearls that trembled like running water in the running shadows of the trees. Still talking, more to herself than to the children, she swam into a majestical dance of the stateliest balancings, the haughtiest wheelings and turnings aside, the most dignified sinkings, the gravest risings, all joined together by the elaboratest interlacing steps and circles. They leaned forward breathlessly to watch the splendid acting. "Would a Spaniard," she began, looking on the ground, "speak of his revenge till his revenge were ripe? No. Yet a man who loved a woman might threaten her, in the hope that his threats would make her love him. Such things have been." She moved slowly across a bar of sunlight. "A destruction from the west may signify that Philip means to descend on Ireland. But then my Irish spies would have had some warning. The Irish keep no secrets. No, it is not Ireland. Now, why... The red shoes clicked and paused. Does Philip name Pedro Melendez de Avila a general in his Americas, unless... She turned more quickly. Unless he intends to work his destruction from the Americas. Did he say de Avila only to put her off her guard, or for this once has his black pen betrayed his black heart? We... She raised herself to her full height. England must forestall Master Philip. But not openly. She sank again. We cannot fight Spain openly. Not yet. Not yet. She stepped 3 paces, as though she were pegging down some snare with her twinkling shoe buckles. The Queen's mad gentlemen may fight Philip's poor admirals where they find 'em, but England, Gloriana, Harry's daughter, must keep the peace. Perhaps, after all, Philip loves her, as many men and boys do. That may help England. Oh, what shall help England? She raised her head, the masked head that seemed to have nothing to do with the busy feet, and stared straight at the children. I think this is rather creepy, said Una with a shiver. I wish she'd stop. The lady held out her jewelled hand as though she were taking someone else's hand in the grand chain. Can a ship go down into the Gascon's graveyard and wait there? She asked into the air, and passed on, rustling. She's pretending to ask one of the cousins, isn't she? Said Dan, and Puck nodded. Back she came, in the silent, swaying, ghostly dance. They saw she was smiling beneath the mask, and they could hear her breathing hard. I cannot lend you any my ships for the venture. Philip would hear of it, she whispered over her shoulder. But as much guns and powder as you ask, if you do not ask too. Her voice shot up, and she stamped her foot thrice. Louder! Louder, the music in the gallery! Oh me, but I have burst out of my shoe! She gathered her skirts in each hand, and began a curtsy. You will go at your own charges, she whispered straight before her. O enviable and adorable age of youth! Her eyes shone through the mask holes. But I warn you, you'll repent it. Put not your trust in princes or queens. Philip's ships'll blow you out of water. You'll not be frightened? Well, we'll talk on it again when I return from Rye, dear lads. The wonderful curtsy ended. She stood up. Nothing stirred on her except the rush of the shadows. And so it was finished, she said to the children. Why do you not applaud? What was finished? Said Una. The dance, the lady replied offendedly, and a pair of green shoes. I don't understand a bit, said Una. What did you make of it, young Burley? I'm not quite sure, Dan began, but... You never can be, with a woman. But I thought Gloriana meant the cousins to go back to the Gascon's graveyard, wherever that was. 'Twas Virginia afterwards, her plantation of Virginia. Virginia afterwards, and stop Philip from taking it. Didn't she say she'd lend 'em guns? Right so, but not ships then. And I thought you meant they must have told her they'd do it off their own bat, without getting her into a row with Philip. Was I right? Near enough for a minister of the Queen. But remember, she gave the lads full time to change their minds. She was 3 long days at Rye Royal, knighting of fat mares. When she came back to Brickwall, they met her a mile down the road, and she could feel their eyes burn through her riding mask. Chris Hatton, poor fool, was vexed at it. You would not birch them when I gave you the chance, says she to Chris. Now, you must get me half an hour's private speech with 'em in Brickwall Garden. Eve tempted Adam in a garden.